Who continues, he says, the patriarch, talking about the patriarch of the Crusaders, the patriarch who had neither morals nor conscience, carried off the treasures of the churches, gold chalices and monstrances, and even the gold plate of the Holy Sepulchre, besides a vast hoard of his own, which had been better spent on ransoming the poor. So poor Christians who were there didn't have money to ransom themselves. And the Crusader patriarch is hoarding gold from the church and taking it away with him. So Stanley Lane Poole is being surprised which had been better spent on ransoming the poor who still remained. When the Saracen emir, Muslims were called, they called Muslims Saracens in 19th century historiography. He says, when the Saracen emir, Salahuddin, urged Salahuddin not to let the old rascal make off with his plunder, he replied, "No, I will not break my faith with him." And the patriarch got off like the rest of his 10 peasants. He was left for the Muhammadan king to teach the Christian priest the meaning of charity. Christian Lane Poole, Stanley Lane Poole. While the Crusaders were hoarding their gold and money, there were still thousands of their own people who had no means of paying their ransom. And again, this is reported by Stanley Lane Poole. He says, Saladin's brother freed 1,000 of them as an act of charity. And Saladin offered the Patriarch of Jerusalem and Belian, the Crusader leader, the opportunity to free 1,000 each as an act of charity. Saladin himself ordered his guards to proclaim throughout the streets of Jerusalem that all the old people who could not pay were free. And he says that they came forth from the posterns of St. Lazarus, and their going lasted from the rising of the sun until night fell. Such was the charity which Saladin did of poor people without number. Stanley Lane Poole. Salahuddin, like Khalifa Omar before him, summoned the Jews and permitted them again to resettle in the city, in Jerusalem. The residents of Ashkelon, a large Jewish settlement especially, responded to his request. Jerusalem stayed in Muslim rule from 1187 to 1948. Under the Fatimid dynasty, Jewish records even indicate that a Karaite Jew, Jews from Khorasan, today is Afghanistan, Western Iran, so a Karaite Jew from Khorasan by the name of Abu Sa'd Isaac ben Aharon ben Ali became governor of Jerusalem under Muslim rule in 1060. A Christian governor named Ibn Muhammad succeeded him in the office. According to Islamic documents, Jerusalem's small Jewish community enjoyed full commercial rights such as the ownership of property and the freedom to transact business under both the Ayyubids and the Mamluks. And to close, I just want to end with another personal story that also explains the connection of Muslims to Palestine. Those of you who go to Jerusalem frequently know about the Maghrebi neighborhood, Maghrebi quarter. When I visited Jerusalem as a Moroccan 2 years ago, I was shocked to see the state it was in. And it has a fascinating story. The Maghrebi neighborhood was built in 1192 by Saladin. It was a trust for the Moroccans, people who came from North Africa, Moroccans, Algerians, Tunisians, who came to fight the Crusades. And they were so valiant and respectful of the traditions of Palestine that Salahuddin built the Maghrebi quarter for them, and it was called the Maghrebi quarter. And they settled there. They got married and settled and became part of the culture. With time, these people just became Palestinians. When you see them today in the old city, they're Palestinians in accents, in clothes, in behavior. They're as Palestinian as can be. But they still hold on to their Maghrebi culture. Many of them own Moroccan restaurants where they still cook Moroccan dishes. And in their houses and restaurants, restaurants, you still see Moroccan paraphernalia, teapots or leather products and things like that. And the neighborhood, the Maghrebi neighborhood, one of the biggest neighborhoods in the old city, eventually became famous for its schools and clinics. It became a transit station for people going to pilgrimage in Mecca. When people go to Mecca, they stop in Jerusalem and stop in the Maghrebi neighborhood. In 1967, when Israel controlled East Jerusalem, the first houses, you guys know where it is. It's where the Wailing Wall is. Muslims call it Haqit al-Buraq. The first houses used to be at 4 meters from the wall. And both in the early 20th century, the Zionist movement was trying to buy it from Muslims. But it was established by Salah ad-Din as a waqf. A waqf is something that nobody can buy or sell. It's a Muslim property. The UN at the time, the League of Nations, because the British started putting pressure on Palestinian leaders to sell the Zionists the corridor between the first houses and the wall. The League of Nations ruled that the corridor and the wall were Muslim properties and not for sale. This is back in 1924 or something. But in 1967, when Israel took over the city, they gave the inhabitants of this 800-year-old neighborhood, it's a cultural document, it's a cultural document of immense importance to humanity. It's like Venice or any of the old cities in the world. When Israel took over the old city, they gave this peaceful community 48 hours to leave and razed it to the ground. Today, there is the big platform there. All those houses used to be the Maghrebi neighborhood. These were Moroccans, Algerians, Tunisians, who went 800 years ago, 900 years ago, to repel the Crusaders out of Palestine. And further up, there is the new row of fancy apartments. They're mostly inhabited by American Jews, wealthy American Jews. That used to be the Moroccan neighborhood too. I was shocked. I was shocked to see how it was vandalized. And it was vandalized, both the neighborhood itself, and many people refused to leave. So they were bulldozed with the neighborhood. It's a little story that shows the connection. That everybody, myself as a Moroccan going to Jerusalem, every corner or streets has roots deep in the Islamic world, one way or another, in the same way that the Church of the Sepulchre or Christian neighborhoods also have deep, old roots in all the Christian world. This tradition that existed there so unassumingly of peace and coexistence and love between communities, when I was there, it was fascinating to see in one village the Israelis destroyed a church. So the Muslim community started putting money to rebuild the church. A month or two later, that same village, the Israelis came and destroyed the mosque. So the Christian community started putting money together to rebuild the mosque. This is the tradition of Palestine that has existed for hundreds of years. There was no ideas of diversity or interfaith dialogue. They weren't programs, they were a reality on the ground, a lived, concrete reality, unassuming and simple. So I'll stop there. Hopefully this is enough food for thought, and I'll be glad to take any questions if you have.